I've done about $1.2 million in revenue selling print-on-demand products on Etsy. And in my time doing this, I've seen so many lies about this whole print-on-demand thing. So I really want to debunk those today. And the first one is that Etsy is saturated. And this kind of pisses me off because honestly, if we just look at some statistics here from Printful, we can just see that we're here in the very baby stages of it all because the market is growing at a 25% annual growth rate per year. And if we just look at the chart, we're just here at the very baby infant stages of it all. Yes, some niches are have a lot more competition in them, but that's because there's so much more in demand, because all saturation really means is that they're high in demand, because there will obviously be competition for stuff that people really want. And it's only really in those niches that we actually can make this happen, because there's no, if we are in these really small niches, here and there, and I'll get into that more later on in the video, but if we're in those small niches, we just have to list like a maniac all the time in order to just make up for the low volume of searches. And we can't sustain a business like that. The only way to sustain a business and to make this whole thing work sustainably by getting monthly profits every single month is by being in the saturated niches and adding value to them that hasn't been implemented before. And I've talked about this so much. I do that especially in my long 7+ hour course. But if you just add value to a niche, it works today. And you might say, okay, it worked in 2022, 2023. But I can tell you it's working today in this really big saturated niches that everyone is in. I'm seeing that every single day in my mentorship, where I see people earning 3 to 5K profit, or going from earning almost nothing to 3 to 5K profit a month, just because they're getting good at the whole game. So if you feel that it's saturated, it's mainly because you're not doing it properly. If you're doing it properly and you're adding value, you can make this work just like anyone can now in 2025. And that leads me heavily into the second thing that kind of pisses me off, and that's that you should focus on low competition niches that are high in demand. I tried this extensively myself when I started. I promise you it doesn't work, because if you do that, you have to be in so many different niches all over the place, and you have to list like crazy all the time in order to make up for the low volume. You might get a sale here, you might get a sale here. And you have to stack all the sales together with a lot of listings in order to make up for the low volume. And I just found that it's just such a painstaking way to make Etsy work. The best thing is to be in these high in demand niches, to make the whole thing work. And as a gift to you, I've also in the description down below, you can get a full yearly Etsy niche calendar for free if you just head into the link below. So that's there if you want that. But just to honestly prove this whole thing that I'm talking about to you, if we just go here into Etsy, and then we go here to Everbee. There's one way that I like to use Everbee that I found recently, honestly. And that's if you go here to the Chrome extension, then you go to the full Everbee database. So you go here, and let's just search for instance, for religion shirt. This is one of a really big niche here. And then we sort everything with a filter. We want the listing age to be a maximum 6 months old. So we do that. And then we sort everything by total sales. Let's see what pops up. So, okay. Oh, never mind. I wrote the wrong thing. Listing age should be maximum 6 months old. So like this. So that's great. And then we sort everything by total sales. So basically, which listing has been listed within 6 months and actually garnered a lot of sales? Let's see which those are. Let's take this one, for instance, and let's see which this is. That's a PNG. Never mind. Let's not do that. Let's take this one. Is this also a PNG maybe? Yep, that's also a PNG. Let's see here. Let's take maybe something like this. Perfect. This is a shirt. This is a Jesus shirt. Approximately, it was listed in 6 months. This is about $600 for just one single listing. And let's see if we can find a better example of this. Again, these are just 6-month-old listings, and you can just see here within the growth rate that it's just growing rampantly. So let's take another one. Let's take this one as an example. No, that's one wasn't that good either. So here in the religion shirt niche, we can see that there's still listings that have been sold within the last 6 months are still selling. A lot of these are PNGs, so disregard these, but these ones are shirts. So they are selling, and this is just one niche. We're talking here that was newly listed. What we can do here is just to go through it like this and just go here, religion shirts. We go to all filters. We go to physical items. We go to the star seller filter. We apply that, and then we swap out star for best in the search bar to only see the best sellers for a given niche. Let's see here. I think this will give us better results with Everbee. And then we want listing age to be maximum 6 months. Let's see that instead. Perfect, this is a lot better. So this one was listed 5 months ago. And this one is, oh, this is not a religion shirt. For some reason it does show up in there, but this is an anti-Trump shirt, so it's a peek towards that. Let's take another one. Let's take this one. Something like this, for instance. Again, there's so many things that we can do here, but if we just look in the niche itself, there's so much competition. We can see that there's like, just for the best sellers, there's 23. So there's not that many best sellers, but if we just look without that, you can see that there's more than 1,000 items. More than 1,000 items within this religion shirt niche. But there's just 23 of them that are actually like bestsellers, which means that there's a lot of room to add value to the niche. You might think that it's really saturated because there's so much competition within this specific niche. But if you actually look at it at face value, and again, you sort by bestsellers by adding the star seller niche, and then swapping out star for best in the search bar. You can see that at the moment when I'm filming this, it's the 16th of August, and this is a huge niche to be in. It's an evergreen niche with peak sales times, and these sell all year long. And if you actually know how to make this whole Etsy thing work and you add value to it by adding, like, let's say for instance that you find a design that works really well in this niche that's not at all the religion niche, and you think it can fit really well within the religion niche, and it's not been implemented before in this way in the religion niche, then just apply it within the religion niche. That's how you add value to the whole platform. It doesn't have to be like more complex than that. Again, I have a full 7+ hour course if you want to watch that on how I actually make designs for this whole thing. But that's how you make this work. You add value to the niche, and if you do that, then it can really, really, really work. Now, there's one thing that I also really want to talk about, and that is that there's a lot of people that just say that you shouldn't be using Printful or Printify. And to me, that's kind of crazy because they're the biggest ones in the whole industry, and especially Printify in this case. And the prices that they have, especially for instance, for like shirts that they have, if you just look at, for instance, like the Comfort Color 1717 that they currently have at the moment, it's really hard to beat these margins with any other supplier. There might be like other type of print-on-demand products that you can get with like a small production partner. But the key thing to know here is that you can just create an account, you can connect it to Printify, and you can worry about the thing that matters most, which is like selling print-on-demand products to Etsy, and then just leave all fulfillment to them. You don't even have to worry about it because all you can do is create an account and choose the print provider that you see fit. If you use these small print-on-demand like print providers that you can probably get like a lower rate if you do things in bulk. But the problem is that you always have to evaluate like your partners in business in rocky times. You can't ever like evaluate how good a partner is in comfortable times, because when you really need them to work is when things are hard, and especially for instance in Q4 when things go out of stock, when things are not working. That's how when you evaluate if something is good or not. And in the beginning, honestly, Printify had some issues. I think that was like in like 2020. But as long as I've been on Etsy, I mean, like since 2022, they've been so solid. Every single Q4, they're just getting better and better and better. And like last year, for instance, there were almost basically no stock issues at all. So how I evaluate any partner that I work with, whether it's like the production partners or whether it's like any type of like business partner, like an accountant, you always evaluate them in rocky times. You don't do that in comfortable times. And because of that, I can comfortably say, because I've spent over $700,000 purchasing stuff on Printify. With that, I can comfortably say that I'm really solid with using them. Whereas if I would use a smaller one, a lot more like issues would most likely occur, like especially like stock issues and stuff like that, or like things getting shipped out late, because like quality of a service, like you selling stuff on Etsy, is always determined also, like it's not just the quality of the print, it's how easy it is to talk to the customer service, it's how reliably you're shipping stuff on time too. So because of all those metrics, and not just like the quality of the print and like the pricing itself, it's always, in my opinion, worth it to stick with Printify and not even think about like going to small like local providers, because if you do that, there's so many more hurdles that you have to overcome, and you can't even evaluate them if they're good unless you're in rocky times. Whereas with Printify, it's just a click to create an account and a click to connect it to Etsy, and then that's that. So that's why I think it's so crazy to me, at least, to choose local print providers with all the hurdles that actually come with that, instead of just using Printify right off the bat. Now, the fourth thing that is close to my heart, because this is exactly what I did in the beginning, is that I hear that you should list a lot of listings. Now, the idea of it all is kind of good because if you list a lot of listings, you get good at listing and you get kind of good at that. But I took that to another level. Like I've listed over 10,000 listings in my store and 10,000 of them are plainly expired. And it's really because like I didn't list quality listings. I didn't even know what that meant. So that's why I think it's just so important to not list a lot of listings. You should list a couple, maybe 50, and then get feedback on it to understand what you're doing right and wrong, and then iterate going forward. If I missed that part for a long time, and since I didn't get the feedback part, I was just doing the same mistakes over and over again, thinking that I should like fix everything because I already know everything. I had that false preconceived conception when I started, and then I was just flabbergasted why it didn't work. But then it also hit me that, okay, I should probably listen to someone who actually knows this a lot more, so they can actually show me what I'm doing wrong. Because when that happened, when I got that feedback, that's when I had rampant improvement because I just implemented those changes directly when I heard them. So listing a lot of listings is not the solution. I mean, the format that I talk about in my course is that you should have, like, for instance, first a thumbnail. I really recommend a guarantee, then a bonus, and then another bonus mockup, and then some how to order mockups like this, and then a bonus mockup again, and then some social proof at the very end. Something like this. And all of these images are proven as well. So you got the thumbnail, then you have the guarantee, and then you have some bonus mockups so that the customer can get a sense of how it looks on different colors. Another bonus mockup, then the how to order images. These might seem plain, but it really makes a huge difference. And then the size chart so that they know which size they actually want. Then the color chart, then another bonus mockup, and then finally a social proof image. I go through all of that in the listing optimization part of the course. But again, just knowing that you should have a format and a strategy to listing images was not, I didn't even know that in the beginning because I had to test out 10 different versions of different listing images for thousands of listings in order to get to this point. But listing a lot of listings was never my solution. Getting feedback on my listings and then iterate going forward on the feedback was the key. So listing a lot of listings is not the solution here. It's listing quality listings. And the last one that I really want to touch on is that you should niche down your Etsy shop. When it comes to this whole Etsy thing, if I just go here and I, for instance, want a political shirt, this is how consumers consume this platform. Same thing with Amazon or any major marketplace here. I just search for political shirts, press enter, and dependent on this, all the search results here, this is what the customer is basing their buying decision on. What they click in search and then what shows up in search. There's so few people, there's almost basically no one here that searches for, at least that just knows the shop and goes into that shop and actually buys from that. So niching down your Etsy shop to a couple of specific niches or something like that is just not the correct way to do this whole Etsy thing because everything happens in search. Because also, if you have niched down your Etsy store, whether you have niched it down or not, but let's say that you have, they will still say that they purchased their niched down, your niched down item from Etsy, not from you. That's how this works. It's the same thing with Amazon. If someone purchases a specific thing on Amazon, whether it's for someone doing FBA or FBM, they're still perceiving it as they are purchasing it from Amazon, not from a specific seller. So I think it's just so important to understand that you can put whatever you want in your shop because everything is just derived off of the search, not from your specific shop. If you have something that really works, it's so important to double down on it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that because that's key in order to grow on Etsy. But constraining yourself by just when you start off your store, for instance, and you say that you're only going to focus on nurses, that's just not a good constraint to make this whole thing work. But the other way to do this whole thing to make it go really, really well is to try out different things here and there, try out different design styles. And once you actually find something that really works in a specific niche, then double down on the specific niche, add more variations into the niche, add new design styles within the niche that you're doing well in, and then take that design and branch out to different niches as well. But the thinking here is that you test a lot of things and then you double down on what's working. You don't niche down from the get. So I just think it's so important to always do that when you're doing Etsy, to not be constrained by thinking that you should have a niche, because either way, people will still perceive it as they're buying it off of Etsy. But honestly, there's just so much information out there about this whole Etsy thing. That's honestly also why I made this 7-hour free Etsy course that just have everything that I know about Etsy in one video. But if you want to learn every ins and outs of Etsy and everything there is to learn about it, you can watch that video here. Anyhow, that's all I got for this one. I'll see you in the next one.